In this video, we will show you how to replace your serpentine belt kit on this Honda Civic with a 1.8-liter engine. This will be located along the passenger side of your engine compartment. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we need to do is disconnect our negative battery terminal from the battery. This is over on the driver's side of the engine compartment. Along the top of the negative battery terminal, you're going to find a 10mm headed mounting nut. We can loosen this just enough that we can remove that terminal end from the battery itself. Once you have it removed, just a quick inspection for corrosion. If you see any, it needs to be dealt with. This one looks fine, so we're going to set it aside so it's making no contact with the battery terminal. The next thing we have to do is pay attention along the passenger side of the engine. We can see the alternator, you can see your serpentine belt, and as we make our way down below that alternator, the next pulley below it, heading a little bit rearward, would be your water pump pulley. This pulley has 3 bolts holding it in place to that water pump. We have to break those free. We're going to do that before we start removing that belt. To remove those mounting bolts, you're typically going to find that they're stuck in place, and when you try to turn these counterclockwise to remove them, the entire pulley is going to want to spin on you. Now, if that's the case, there's a couple different ways you can prevent that from spinning. One would be applying extra pressure at the serpentine belt tensioner with a 19mm. The second would be what I'm doing now, and that's using a pry bar. I'm going to be using a long pry bar directly down in this area, making my way diagonally across 2 of the mounting bolt heads. That's going to prevent this from spinning, and we can continue on loosening one of our 10mm headed mounting bolts. After that, we'll just go ahead and spin this as necessary so we can loosen all 3. There we are. I got some movement from that one. Just make sure we got plenty of movement. There it is. To spin this, to gain access to the next bolts, as I mentioned, typically if you take hold of one of the bolt heads, it's going to want to spin that pulley for you, so that's how we're going to spin this. Otherwise, if you needed to, you could release tension from the belt, spin it by hand, reapply pressure, and then continue on with the bolts. There we are. Plenty of movement from all 3 bolts. Let's continue on. Let's start removing our serpentine belt. To remove this, we're going to have to release tension using this area right down underneath our engine mount using a 19mm. This is part of the serpentine belt tensioner. Before you remove the serpentine belt, just take a quick note of the belt routing. Now for this, I'm using a 19mm and a long ratchet. You can use a serpentine belt tool if you have the adapter. We're turning this counterclockwise, essentially towards the rear. As you can tell, that releases pressure from the belt. We can continue on sliding the belt out of position from our alternator. Let's go ahead and remove our tool. Fully remove that belt. There it is, friend. Let's just quickly compare the original belt to the brand new one, making sure it's the same width, the same amount of ribs, and the same length. This is perfect. Now that we have the belt out of the way, let's make our way along the back side of the engine here. We can see our idler pulley right out in the open. It's pretty much the only one back here. To remove this, we'll be using a 14mm. There really isn't too much room for a ratchet and a socket in this area. We're going to have to wrench it. Okay, it's getting close here. There it is, friend. Now that we have that out of position, the next thing we have to do is clean the mounting point. I'm just going to carefully reach down in here with a clean rag, and we'll give this a quick wipe. Essentially, the place we're paying attention to is right where the idler pulley sits. Okay, let's get ready for installation of our brand new idler pulley. For this, we want to start by taking the bolt and we'll slide it straight through the idler pulley. We're only resting it in there. Now we can get this in position. I got my bolt on there. We'll slide the idler pulley as far up against that base as possible. Start on the mounting bolt. We'll snug it up. The torque for this is 33 foot-pounds. Okay, let's torque it. There we go. Now we can start removing our alternator from this area. Let's start up along the top of the alternator with the wiring. This one right here across the front upper portion of the alternator, you're going to find an electrical connector with a small squeezable tab. You want to go ahead and press that in and pull this out of place. A quick inspection of both ends for corrosion, of course. This looks fine. Let's set that wiring harness aside. Continuing on towards the center wire, this one has a rubber protective boot. Go ahead and set that aside. Underneath that, you're going to find a 10mm headed mounting nut. Remove the nut, remove the wire from the alternator. There we are. Just like before, close inspection for corrosion or damage. This looks fine as well. Now it's time for our last wiring harness. This one has the red connector. Should have a locking tab along this inboard side here. You just want to go ahead and squeeze that in. Lift that up and out of place. Quick inspection for corrosion. That looks good. We'll set it aside with the rest of the wires. Now we're looking along the back side of the alternator. You can see where the exhaust manifold is. There's a small heat shield in this area. We want to go ahead and separate the wiring harness from the alternator. So right up along the top of the alternator where the electrical connector is, you're going to find that there's a metal bracket attached to the alternator. Remove the 10mm bolt. Now follow that wiring harness. Here's that metal bracket making its way down along the back side of the alternator. This is held in place with 2 more 10mm bolts. Remove the pair and remove that bracket. Here's one of our 10mm mounting bolts. The next one's all the way down at the bottom there. I'm going to start with the lower one. It's a little bit more difficult to gain access to. I'm using a ratcheting 10mm wrench. And we can get that last one up here. I'm holding onto the bracket so it does not fall down. Now at this point, we're going to remove that from the backside of the alternator. You really can't fully remove it, but at least give it a close inspection. Make sure it's not rotted, weak, or damaged. This one looks fine, so I'm going to set it aside. Now we can remove our next wiring harness bracket from the other side of the alternator. This one has one 10mm headed mounting bolt. Now it's time for the 2 mounting bolts to remove the alternator. I'm just flexing the AC hose out of the way so we can see the upper mounting bolt here. The lower one's a little bit more difficult to gain access to. If you were looking at the water pump pulley just down in this area, I can feel that mounting bolt. For each one of these 2 bolts, we'll be using a 12mm. I'm going to start with the lower bolt first since it's the hardest to gain access to. Now it's time for the upper mounting bolts. Keep in mind this is the last thing holding this alternator in place. The upper mounting bolt is considerably longer than the lower mounting bolt. Give them both a close inspection, clean them up if necessary, set them aside. Take hold of the alternator, lift it up and out of the engine compartment. For this, you're going to find that it typically has to be pivoted a little bit and slid up and out. There we are. A quick inspection and we'll set this aside. Now we can finish removing those water pump pulley mounting bolts. We're using a 10mm if necessary. I've already broken them free. Commonly, you can just take hold of them and remove them by hand at this point. Now we'll take hold of the water pump pulley and remove it from the area. Give it a close inspection. Make sure it's not rotted or damaged in any way. A little bit of rust like this is fine, but you may want to clean it up with some fine sandpaper. Now it's time to remove the serpentine belt tensioner. For this, we're going to have to use a 5/16 Allen head socket and make our way just behind where the water pump is. Deep down in this area, you're going to find the pivot bolt for our serpentine belt tensioner. It's pretty common for these to be extremely tight. There we go. As you're removing this, just be careful that your ratchet doesn't get stuck up against the body of the vehicle as you continue on removing this mounting bolt. Once you feel as though you have it loose enough with the ratchet and you can grab onto it by hand, we'll just continue on this way. I'm using the socket, of course. Almost out. There we are. Now I'm going to leave the bolt inside of the tensioner assembly. We'll remove it once the tensioner assembly is out of the vehicle. Now we're making our way to the final mounting bolt holding our tensioner in place. Use a 12mm to remove this mounting bolt. Let's take hold of that tensioner assembly and remove it from the vehicle. There's our mounting bolt. There it is, friend. Now with that out of place, the next thing we need to do is clean and inspect the mounting points. Just using a clean rag for this. You can also use some compressed air. Just give that a thorough inspection. We'll make our way out this way as well. That looks good. All right, now it's time for installation of our brand new serpentine belt tensioner assembly. When we go to bring this in position, we're going to start with this area. We'll swing it around. It should rest in this position, and we can continue on with our two mounting bolts. Now, when we start bringing this tensioner down into position, we want to make sure we're bringing the tensioner on the inboard side of the water pump flange here. You should just want to pivot right into place. Now we'll continue on with our larger pivot bolt here. This is the one that we use the 5/16 Allen head socket to remove. Just move this around as necessary, get that started in by hand. Once you have that one adequately started in, continue on to the next mounting bolt. Have to get this aligned. We have our 12mm headed mounting bolt. Start it in by hand. We'll snug it up. They're both started in. Let's snug them up. Now that I have the forward bolt snug, I'm going to torque that to 17 foot-pounds. Now let's snug and torque the next mounting bolt. The torque for this one will be 41 foot-pounds. Now that we have both of those torqued, it's time to install our water pump pulley. When you go to install this, you want to make sure you know exactly where each one of the mounting bolt ports is on the water pump flange. What we're paying attention for is the ports that are threaded. Otherwise, the other ports are just hollow ports. There's nothing to screw into. I've marked this one in red. Once I have that aligned and started in, we can continue on by turning it and everything else should be aligned. Just try to get this as close as possible. Okay, I've got them all started in. I'm just going to go ahead and try to snug these up using my wrench. Now that I have them bottomed out, the next thing we need to do is torque these to 10 foot-pounds. There's minimal space in this area to fit a torque wrench. Just make sure they're nice and tight with your wrench if necessary. If you're reusing your original alternator, the next thing you need to do is have it on the bench. We're going to pay attention to this area right here, which is where one of the through bolts goes through. As you tighten that bolt, it's going to squeeze this up against the mounting bracket. So for now, for installation, we want to make sure we have that pushed all the way towards the back side. I'm going to use some Penetrant here, just as a lubricant, and we'll continue on with a hammer and punch, driving that through as far as possible. Just going to use the flat side of my punch here. There we are. That's going to give us plenty of room. Now we can install the alternator. All right, let's go ahead and install our alternator. Start bringing this down into position. We're going to start our larger mounting bolt through first. This is the upper mounting bolt. Slide it straight on through one ear of the alternator, through the mounting bracket on the engine, all the way through to the second ear on the alternator. We're going to start this in, but leave it loose so we can pivot the alternator as necessary so we can gain access to that lower mounting bolt. Now it's time for the lower mounting bolt. This is the one that's shorter than the larger one there. Try to get this in position down here. Typically, once you slide it through the port on the alternator, you can maneuver the alternator up or down as necessary. Once you feel it start to click into position, continue on by snugging it up. Once they're both started in, snug them up, torque those to 17 foot-pounds. Let's get our wiring harness bracket in place. We'll start with the outboard one here. Start in our 10mm headed mounting bolt and snug it up. Now we've got our shield slash bracket. It's going on the back side of the alternator. Two 10mm headed mounting bolts for this. Just going to start them right through that shield. In position here. Okay, that one started on. We're leaving it loose. Let's start on the other mounting bolt and then we can snug them both. Okay, bottomed out. Just a tiny bit further there. Let's get that next one. Let's make sure that's tight. Now we have our next small bracket with the wiring harness still attached. This is going to go up against this area, and we'll start the mounting bolt through from the inboard side. Right up in here. Start it in, snug it up. Okay, bottomed out. Make sure it's tight. Continuing on, it's time for our electrical connectors. We'll start with the red electrical connector. Just go ahead and take this. We'll press it down on there as far as possible. Sometimes you hear an audible click, other times you don't. Give it a light tug, confirming it's properly secured in place. Let's continue on to our next wiring harness. This is the one that you need to make sure is clean along both sides. We want to have good contact here. You can use some fine sandpaper to clean it down. We'll just get this in position along the center top post there. We've got our 10mm mounting nut. Okay, right there's bottomed out. We're just going to take this a tiny bit further. We do not want to break this stud off the top of the alternator. Go ahead and protect that area with its rubber cover. Press that on there as far as possible. We want to make sure there's no way anything can make contact with that mounting nut or stud under this area. This is extremely important. One last connector here. We'll get the black one pressed into position. Line it up, press it in. Audible click on that one. A light tug, feels good. All right, now it's time to install our Serpentine belt. Now, when installing the belt, it's going to go over some pulleys and under others. We want to make sure we have it in the same exact routing as when we had removed it. Just go ahead and pay attention to the diagram and route it properly. I'm going to start down at the bottom of that AC compressor. As you make your way around the AC compressor, the rearward portion of the belt is going to come back up and it's going to make its way around that water pump. As it makes its way around the water pump, let's make our way all the way down to the crankshaft pulley. This one can be a little bit difficult to reach. You can generally reach down from the top here. Otherwise, you may have to remove your passenger side front wheel to make your way in there. Typically, you can gain access to this right through the top. After you make your way around that crankshaft pulley, make your way up and around the tensioner pulley next, and then we're going to lead all the way towards the rear for our idler pulley. The top of the belt will make its way from that idler pulley all the way back over here to the front, around that alternator. Now, before we get the Serpentine belt onto the last pulley here, let's just go ahead and exercise it throughout the entire motion of the tensioner. We'll bring it all the way counterclockwise as far as possible, release it so it comes clockwise, repeat this process 3 times. Now, continuing on, you want to make sure you're properly seated on each one of the pulleys, especially the ones that are ribbed. After you've done that, we want to go ahead and remove tension from our belt, so we're going to be pivoting the tensioner counterclockwise towards the rear of the vehicle here. While holding pressure, we can get our belt in place. Just be extremely careful for any pinch points. Okay, slide that onto the alternator. Now, once you feel as though you have it on there, the next thing that you have to do is just do a double check, confirming that you're sitting on each one of the pulleys properly, especially the ribbed pulleys. If you're off by even 1 tooth on the belt and it's hanging off in one direction or the other, You can potentially cause serious damage to the belt or other components. This is extremely important. Just go ahead and double check. Now let's make our way all the way over to the other side of the engine compartment to reconnect our negative battery terminal. We'll press that down onto the battery as far as possible. Tighten your 10mm mounting nut just enough that this is tight. Okay, it's bottomed out there. We're just going to take it a tiny bit further. Give it a quick wiggle, double checking to make sure it's properly secured in place. Okay friend, we finished our installation. The next thing you need to do is hop in the passenger compartment. Start up the vehicle, let it run for approximately 5 seconds, turn it right back off. Make your way right back out here and triple check the belt, confirming that it's properly seated all the way around each and every one of the pulleys. After that, you can go ahead and close the hood and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.